The year was 1991. Nintendo controlled 90% of the gaming market. In one moment at a Chicago trade show, they turned a partner into a competitor. Within 5 years, that competitor dominated the industry, while Nintendo fell to second place. This is the PlayStation story. To understand what happens next, you need to know how powerful Nintendo was. In the late 1980s, Nintendo ruled gaming like no company before. The NES is in over 30 million American homes. In Japan, it's even bigger. Nintendo doesn't just lead the industry, they are the industry. Untouchable, unbeatable. Everyone else fights for scraps. But in Tokyo, an engineer has an idea that will change everything. His name is Ken Kutaragi. He designs cutting-edge audio equipment for Sony. He's watching his daughter play with a Nintendo Famicom. He becomes annoyed at the sound quality. It's terrible. He thinks, I can fix this. But here's the problem. Sony's executives look down on video games. They make Walkmans and televisions, sophisticated electronics. Games are toys for children. When Kutaragi proposes creating a sound chip for Nintendo, his bosses are uninterested. This could hold him back. Kutaragi takes the risk anyway. He works in secret nights and weekends, developing the SPC700 sound chip. But one man inside Sony believes in him, Sony's president, Norio Oga. The gamble works. Nintendo is impressed. The SPC700 chip makes the Super Nintendo sound incredible. Sony has proven itself. Kutaragi has a foot in the door, but he wants more. He pitches a bigger idea. What if Sony and Nintendo built a CD-ROM add-on for the Super Nintendo? CDs can hold massively more data than cartridges. Better graphics, better sound, better everything. Nintendo agrees. The partnership begins. The deal seems simple. Sony builds a CD-ROM add-on called the Nintendo PlayStation, and it plays both CDs and cartridges. But there's a catch. Sony controls the licensing for all CD games. Sony could also develop its own standalone console later. For Nintendo, this is dangerous. If CD gaming takes off, Sony owns the software. Nintendo makes hardware. Sony controls the future. But Sony makes the SNES sound chip, and Nintendo needs them. They sign anyway. June 1991, the Consumer Electronics Show. Sony is excited. They've rented booth space. They have prototypes ready. Then a Sony executive stands on stage in front of the press. He announces Sony and Nintendo are partnering to create the Nintendo PlayStation. The press is stunned. This is huge. Sony entering gaming. Nintendo embracing CDs. This could be big. But the next morning, everything changes. Nintendo holds a surprise press conference. They announce a new partnership, not with Sony, with Philips, the Dutch electronics giant. Philips offers Nintendo something Sony doesn't: complete control. Nintendo owns all the licensing, all the profit, all the power. Sony is blindsided, humiliated, in front of the entire industry. The Sony executives can't believe it. The partnership is dead. The project is canceled. Sony's reputation is damaged. Nintendo has publicly betrayed them. Sony is furious, but Sony's executives want to walk away. Video games are toys. This partnership was always questionable. Now they've been embarrassed. Time to cut losses. Return to serious electronics. Forget gaming forever. Nintendo betrayed us, but they also validated us. They're scared of what we could build. We should build it anyway. We'll create our own console. We'll compete directly. We'll beat them at their own game. Sony's president gives Kutaragi his blessing, but most of Sony still opposes this. So the team moves to Sony Music, a separate division. There, they work in secret. The project codename, PSX, PlayStation X. The X reminds them of Nintendo's betrayal. It fuels their determination. They're not building a toy, they're building the future of gaming. 32-bit technology, real-time 3D graphics that rival workstations costing thousands. CD-ROM giving developers massive storage. Easy development tools, so game creators actually want to work with them. Everything Nintendo isn't. December 3rd, 1994. Sony launches the PlayStation in Japan. It's not marketed as a toy. It's positioned as entertainment for teenagers and adults. The console is sold in major electronics stores, not just toy stores. The design is sleek, gray, sophisticated. The games are different too. Ridge Racer, photorealistic racing, Tekken, Brutal 3D fighting. These aren't cartoon characters jumping on mushrooms. These games target an older audience. Japanese gamers are curious. They had been loyal to Nintendo, but Sony is offering something different, something mature, something powerful. September 1995. PlayStation arrives in North America and Europe. Nintendo and Sega dominate these markets. The Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis are household names. But Sony has a strategy. They make development easy and cheap. They give developers creative freedom. Then comes a devastating blow. Square, the company behind the development of Final Fantasy, announces they are moving to PlayStation. Square chooses Sony, and other developers follow. Developers face a choice. Nintendo's cartridges are expensive and limited. Final Fantasy VII needs 3 CDs on PlayStation. It would need multiple cartridges on N64 if the hardware could even handle it. Sony offers flexibility, lower costs, creative freedom. More developers choose Sony. PlayStation's library explodes. By 1997, Nintendo realizes they have a problem. A big one. PlayStation is outselling them. The CD format they rejected is now the standard. The adult market they hadn't thought to pursue is massive. More developers are choosing Sony. Nintendo releases the Nintendo 64. It's technically impressive, but it still uses cartridges. Expensive, limited cartridges. Meanwhile, PlayStation games cost a fraction to produce. Developers choose Sony. Players choose Sony. The numbers tell the story. PlayStation sells 5 million units in 2 years, then 10 million, then 20 million. By 2005, PlayStation has sold over 100 million units. The Super Nintendo sold 49 million total. PlayStation has doubled it. Sony doesn't stop. PlayStation 2 launches in 2000. It becomes the best-selling console ever, 155 million units. PlayStation 3 struggles initially but recovers. PlayStation 4 dominates its generation, 117 million units. And today, the PlayStation 5 continues the legacy with over 84 million units sold. 30 years after that betrayal in Chicago, Sony has sold nearly 600 million PlayStation consoles total. Nintendo is still hugely successful. The Switch became their second best-selling console ever, with over 150 million units. But they never regained the dominance they had before they betrayed Sony. That 90% market share, gone forever. Sony proved there was room for multiple giants. The takeaway: in 1991, Nintendo chose control over partnership. They wanted all the licensing, all the power. What's more, Nintendo never thought Sony would take the risk of competing with them. What they got was a competitor that gave people something fresh. Ken Kutaragi, the engineer with an idea, became one of the most influential people in entertainment. Time magazine called him the Gutenberg of video games. Sony transformed gaming from a hobby for kids into something everyone can enjoy. They proved video games could tell different stories, showcase incredible technology, and reach billions. That moment in 1991 didn't just create a console, it birthed an empire. Sometimes your biggest competitor is born from the partner you underestimate. All because a man watching his daughter thought her Nintendo could sound better.
Thank you for watching. For more deep dives into inspiring innovations, please subscribe to Tech Origins HQ.